So thank you very much for joining us this evening or watching the video. Tonight, I decided during photo time, I wanted to talk about some essential documents that you might want to consider safeguarding digitally and some tips and some ideas about doing that and a checklist for tips and thoughts and best practices. So my agenda tonight is kind of the introduction of why do you want to do this and why did I even think about having this as a topic, why digital backup can be convenient for you, how to digitize those important documents, what you might want to digitize. And I do have a list in a handout that I've provided everybody who's here tonight. I will be posting that on our Facebook group, Consistently Creative Croppers, so you'll be able to grab that if you're interested. Some additional tips, and I'm going to encourage the people who are live and attending to get started. And if you're watching this recording, I'm going to encourage you to do one thing, to take one thing out and do that tonight. And I've got a couple of ideas that you can do fast and easy. So recently, there was a checklist going around social media due to the wildfires that was some recommendations on things that people were finding that they really should have accessible digitally. Because in a large-scale disaster, a lot of the things that we assume we'd be able to pull out from home may not be accessible to us. And because of all of this discussion, I thought it was really a good time to readdress some emergency preparedness. But in addition, there can be small scale disasters. I mean, individual homes flood, individual homes catch fire. You can actually have a damage to your box of important files. So it's not really the only reason why we want to do this. But some things that have occurred to me over the past probably 6 months to a year. Have you ever been at a doctor's office and needed an insurance card and didn't have it because maybe another family member had the insurance card and you didn't have the current one? Or maybe traveling and you need a copy of your passport for something or a visa. I've been shopping for my pet with allergies, and I always get confused as to which dog had which food allergies because they were different, but they both had a fairly lengthy list. Sometimes I need to send a document to a family member, and having it accessible digitally is very helpful. Also, in filling out an online application, I don't know how many times I've been someplace and I need to fill out an application that needs some card or some other piece of information that I just don't have memorized. So I think there's a lot of non-emergency situations where having access to some of these types of things is really helpful. So even though I'm talking about it because of the wildfires and from the perspective of emergency preparedness, I think there's a number of times where it's really helpful to have access to some of these things. So digital backup is really convenient because you can access it while you're on the go, and you never know when you might need something that you left at home. And I can tell you many times the grocery list is sitting at home, and I think a lot of people have started taking a picture of the grocery list or a picture of the box of something that they're supposed to buy at the store. But there's other things that are not something like that, that it would be just helpful to have access to it all the time. So as you all know, I'm a Forever ambassador, and I am really a proponent of using Forever Storage because it's private, permanent, and secure. And it has some advantages for this type of application that some of the other services don't have. So, how to digitize. So for most of these things, we don't need archival quality scans. We don't need high resolution images. So if it's simple and easy, take your cell phone out and take a photo of it, because for the most part, if you need an insurance card and you don't have a copy of it, a photo of it is going to be good enough when you're at a doctor's office. If you need to send that, take that information with you and you need to just have a specific number off of a document. I've needed my husband's driver's license, which I don't know his driver's license number, and I don't carry it with me. So, but having a photo of it in my Forever Storage account with my private documents, I have access to that. So then there's long documents, things that are multiple pages. And there's a couple of options for this. You can use a phone app that converts them to a PDF as opposed to taking single images, because that way they're all stored in one document. And I'm thinking of things like medical records that might be longer than a page, or wills or powers of attorney, things like that. You can take pictures of them. There's a number of phone apps. Everybody has their favorites, and you can definitely search for phone apps that are good with your phone and use that. You can also scan them on a printer when you're at home with if you have access to one that has a sheet feeder. And many of our printers now do have sheet feeders, and that makes it really fast and easy too. So multiple pages I like to do in something that has, we'll convert it to a PDF, because that way all of those images of all the pages are in one document, as opposed to taking 10 photos of a 10-page document. So just a couple of things there. And again, since we're not going with archival quality, it doesn't really matter. So things to digitize. And this is kind of the beginnings of the list. And the list that everybody received here is actually pretty much a full page, but it can include things like birth certificates and passports and visas, driver's licenses, social security cards. There's lots of things on this list. And a lot of these were being talked about and discussed in light of the recent wildfires. And some of these documents were on that list. There's also things like your financial and legal records. We've got wills and powers of attorney and estate or trust documents, insurance policies, or at least insurance policy numbers and contact information for your insurance agent. So if you have an issue, you always have that with you. Tax returns, that's a really good one to scan into a PDF and have access. If you are doing your tax returns via something like TurboTax, or you have somebody who's doing your taxes for you, they should be able to provide you a document for that year's return that's already in a PDF, so you can have access to that also. There's also lots of other things that you can have that fall under this domain, and sometimes receipts for major purchases or warranty information. One other thing that I think many people have found useful at various stages in their life is a video inventory of your possessions. And recently I was at a meeting with an insurance agent, and he says, you don't know how many people have done that, but it was 15 years ago. So he was starting to reach out to some of his customers to say, if you did that video inventory, that's great, but 15 years ago, it's probably significantly changed. So even going around with your phone and opening, kitchen cabinets and closet doors and just doing a quick single pass through your house is really helpful if you do end up needing a video inventory for any type of loss, be it something like robbery or fire or flood or anything like that. So that's something that is a good thing to have. The credit card info. So I think the most important thing is how to contact the company in case of an emergency. So if your credit card gets stolen, what you really need is to know how to contact them. You don't always need your credit card number, but you definitely need to know how to contact them in case you have an issue. And then there's, of course, financial statements with an account number and phone number. You don't necessarily need to be uploading your financial statements, but some of that information is helpful. Then there's the whole domain of medical information, insurance cards, front and back. And you may have a variety of insurance. You have medical, dental, pharmacy, vision. They may be all together. They may be separate. Allergy and medication lists are really helpful, especially when you're at the doctor's office and you didn't bring your medication and they're asking you, what is your current medication? You can just pull it all up. And immunization records, things like surgery lists or lists of your hospitalizations. I had some surgeries when I was 5, 6 years old. I don't remember when I had them. They're not I just obviously I don't remember them. So having those down in a list is really helpful. Things like your current eyeglass prescription is also very helpful because I've actually found when people are traveling, if they have that eyeglass prescription with them and their glasses break, or they run out of contacts and they can go to a place where they're traveling, if they have that prescription, they typically can email it to the provider there and they can help them out and get them back on the way. There may be additional medical information that's specific to you or to somebody in your family. Um, I've shared before, my daughter has type 1 diabetes. She has an insulin pump. It's sometimes really helpful to have the information about her pump as well as the pump settings. We have had times where the pump did a reset while we were traveling internationally, and we had to go back to square one and put all the settings back in. And we were very glad that we actually had photos of that in our phones with us because otherwise we would have been like, what are we doing and how do we do this? And we were international, so we wouldn't have been able to call the doctor. So there might be additional medical information that might be helpful to you. Other things, pet medical records, things like their license, their allergies, their vaccination records. I know when we board our dogs, they need our vaccine records, and I have to send that to them digitally. So since I have to do that digitally anyway, it's very nice to just have it in one place. Same with allergies. As I mentioned, two dogs, two very different allergies, different food allergies has made that very interesting, and I can't always remember which dog had which allergies. Wi-Fi passwords. I don't know how many times I've been with people and at their place and I need their Wi-Fi password. We have to go and look it up. And it wasn't too long ago that I was actually on a call with somebody who they needed to give their Wi-Fi password to somebody who was sitting with them. And when they picked up the box to do that, they shut off their Wi-Fi. So I was sitting on Zoom with them and all of a sudden they disappeared. So while you know you can have it on the box, sometimes, so she had to wait for her Wi-Fi to reboot and then she had to relog in. It was kind of a little bit of a mess. So if you're listening to this, no, not a big deal, but it made me think that having it in a place where you could access it easily was very helpful. I've also shared in the past that I'm a scuba diver, so having my diving certification and my diving insurance cards handy, I'm able to just show those when we're checking in at some dive location, and I don't actually have to worry about bringing the physical cards with me, which is a nice thing to do. So there may be other things that you have or that you can think of that maybe wasn't in the list. So, but hopefully this sparked some ideas. So before I continue on with some of my tips, does anybody who's present here have any additional thoughts or comments before I go on?
Yes, I do. There
Yes.
is an app for, I have an iPhone, but I think it will also work on a Android. It's called Swift Scan, and I have the Swift, it's free, and I have the Swift Scan Pro, which costs, I don't know, not much. And you can actually scan an entire book um,
Nice.
for the moment. And
Awesome.
it as you turn the pages, it takes the new photograph. It's great for um, quick scans.
Awesome. So Swift Scan or Swift Scan Pro, which is the paid version. Excellent.
Yes,
Thank you for sharing. I use Cam
sure.
Scanner and it does similar. That's another one. And there's when I've actually gone into the App Store and looked at it, there are dozens now. There may be a lot more. Any other comments while I'm pausing?
I know you said insurance documents, but like appraisals, include appraisals
Oh,
of
yes.
like, jewelry. So maybe you don't, if you think insurance documents, oh, I just need my policy. But no, you need the documentation of the appraisal of your wedding ring or your engagement ring or whatever it is that you have. We have photography equipment that we have appraised as, so make sure you keep that.
Good. So things that are basically on a separate rider that are itemized into your insurance, having those appraisals because then you have them handy, and also sometimes having them digitally and you know the date that you had that appraisal done. If it's been a long time, it might be something that you need to have redone and readdressed. We've done the same thing for musical instruments. So good, very good idea. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
All right. Okay. So some additional tips. So one reason I personally recommend a forever permanent storage account is because it is backed up in multiple places across multiple regions, ensuring that you don't lose things. So having that being in different places is unique to Forever and also indicating that they have that done in 3 different locations at a minimum, um, is something that is unique to them and unique to how they set up the company and how they have financed it. So that is different from all of our other companies like iCloud and Google, which don't keep multiple copies of our things. And another reason is because they do value your personal privacy. So they don't data mine, they don't sell your personal data. They allow you to keep your ownership rights and you can set the privacy settings. So while I might hesitate to put some of these things into an iCloud photo or a Google photo album, it's very different with Forever, which is one thing that I wanted to be sure to point out about it. So some additional tips about after you take a photo with your phone. So if you've created a PDF, if it hasn't been stored on your phone, I don't think there's an issue. But if you do take a photo, and let's say you take a photo of your driver's license, you may probably don't want to leave that sitting on your phone because your phone can be hacked and definitely can be hacked if you are on a public Wi-Fi. And I had my phone hacked a long time ago. I was transiting through the Moscow airport heading to Singapore, and 2 of our phones were hacked. They got our iCloud password, they got into our Apple accounts. It was kind of a mess, and it had only been turned on for 5 or 10 minutes or less than that. So I've seen more and more indications that when you're on a public Wi-Fi, it is very easy to hack into your phone. So after you take a photo with your phone, and you put your photos, these images into your Forever account, I really strongly encourage you to delete those things from your phone, especially if they have information that could be sensitive if somebody did hack into it. So when you do store them into your Forever account, I recommend you setting that album to private or to your family group. So I have a number of documents in mine that I share with my main family, and it isn't shared with anybody else. It isn't shared with all of the extended family. So, and also, since Forever will take an image and put that as your album photo cover, I would advise you to intentionally set that album cover to something that is not one of your private documents. And I have an image that I am using myself, and I will share that. It's on another slide. But just to be mindful of that. Also, it may be helpful to put a reminder in your calendar to update your documents annually. If you have a fireproof box that you update, you can do it at the same time, or when you receive the new card or the new information in the mail, take a picture of it right away before you even put the card in your wallet, because it'll take you 2 minutes to do this. So that is another recommendation. So this is this image that I was talking about, that I have here for important personal documents. It's an individual JPEG. It's sized to be able to go into your Forever account. And I'm going to be including that with the email later on. So you will be able to upload this into your storage account. So things to get started right away. Create an album in your Forever storage account for these types of items. Set the privacy setting to private, or if you're using it and sharing it with a family group, you can do that. Oh, I did not mean to bump my mouse. Put an album cover in it of something else, so it doesn't happen to default to a photo with a private information. So my question to you is, do you have anything accessible to you fairly easily right now that you could take a photo of and put in your storage account, like a driver's license or a health insurance card or something else that you might have in your wallet that you could actually do. So I'm going to encourage these people who are here and anybody who's watching the recording to do that. And, you know, don't wait, because actually once you start, starting is always the hardest part. I don't have everything in my account, so I will admit that, but I'm in the process of adding things all the time. So I think that's, you know, getting started is a great thing and a great way to actually get this accomplished. So just as a reminder, we talked about tonight about why you might want to do this and why the digital backup is convenient, how to digitize important documents, what to digitize, additional tips, and how to get started. And I have, this is the handout that I created, which kind of has some of the high points as well as the list of things. And I've shared that as a chat in the chat with the people who are here live on Zoom. And I will also be posting it on our Facebook page and emailing it to people. So I appreciate everyone's time, and I'm going to try to minimize that window. So any other questions or comments from people?
This is great.
Awesome.
Yes, very nice. Nice presentation.
Okay, so we can go ahead and stop the recording. So thanks for watching.
Thanks, Corey.